Hello, I'm Malcolm. Welcome to edition 2064 of the Enfield Talking newspaper. With me on the reading team for Thursday the 8th of September 2016 are Evan and Patricia, with Jason on the controls. And the production team this week is Phillip and Keith. And the items we'll be reading are the copyright of our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent. This week's local stories include North Mid adds more doctors to A&E, council redundancies cost more than £8 million, hate preacher Rahman jailed, and a Brimstone crowd come together for the first time since the 1960s. But before we go to the papers, we've got one or two reminders and special announcements. Just to let you know that on Sunday, sunrise will be at 06:30 in the morning, and sunset will be at 19:23. Who's got something on Broomfield? Is that Patricia?
Yeah. Did you know there is a community cafe in Broomfield Park? Palmer's Greenery Community Cafe in Broomfield Park, Alderman's Hill, N13, is open on Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays. It serves homemade cakes, tea, coffee and refreshments from 10 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon. And also in Broomfield Park, there will be a special event next Thursday, the 15th of September. It's at 6 o'clock in the evening in the War Memorial Garden of the park, and they will be hosting the RAF Association's Battle of Britain commemoration service. It'll last just half an hour, beginning at 6 o'clock in the evening on the 15th of September, and that's in the War Memorial Garden of Broomfield Park.
Thanks, Patricia. Evan, have you got songs of praise?
Yes, I have. Join Pam Rhodes from the BBC Songs of Praise and the Choir of Christ Church, Southgate, on Sunday the 18th of September at 6:30 p.m. for a celebration of your favourite hymns. In Then Sings My Soul, Pam Rhodes will talk about some of the nation's best-loved hymns, which we will then sing, led by the choir. Admission is free. The event takes place at Christ Church, The Green, Southgate, N14 7EG. This special event rounds off London Open House Weekend, during which the church will be open from 11 a.m. until 6:30 p.m. on Saturday the 17th and Sunday the 18th of September.
Thanks. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about an intriguing event at Tate Britain. Now, it's on the afternoon of Monday the 19th of September. It's listed as an audio description workshop, but it seems to be a bit more hands-on than that, as you'll be exploring the work of a radical artist group and their systematic approach to their artwork. Here's the background. Systems was a group of artists formed in 1969. And one focus for these artists was belief that following a rational, systematic procedure to make artwork, often based on mathematics, they believed it was very important, and if not more important than the finished object itself. This theory influenced their work in different mediums, from painting to sculpture, and their concentration on a practice based in theory forms one foundation for contemporary artists' working practice today. This spotlight event, sponsored by BP, presents work by the group's core members from their most significant moment, an Arts Council touring exhibition in 1972-73 that originated at the Whitechapel Art Gallery in London. It includes paintings and sculptures, as well as drawings, photographs, and plans of final works that illustrate systems defining methodical working process. This practical workshop, getting down to what Tate Britain are actually going to do, this practical workshop will give participants the opportunity to play and experiment using 3D materials to explore their understanding of the work of systems through practical and creative exercises. And it's designed for blind and partially sighted participants. It's open to all abilities, and this practical session is led by arts practitioner Caroline Dawson. Materials and refreshments will be provided, and you can take one sighted companion with you, that's one per participant, and guide dogs are welcome too. This audio description workshop, exploring the 3D collection at Tate Britain, is on Monday the 19th of September from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Admission is free, but booking is essential due to limited places. So please contact Anna Murray, that's M-U-R-R-A-Y, and she's Assistant Curator for Access. Now you can email her at anna.murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, at tate.org.uk, or you can call her on 020 7887 8888. That's 020 7887 8888. And you can book your place. Okay. The town show, who's got that?
Yes. The Enfield Town and Country Show returns from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday the 24th of September and Sunday the 25th of September. The show has something for everybody, with many new and added attractions this year. It includes a food, drink and music festival and a festival of dogs. It's intended to be a family fun day out for everyone. New this year is street food and a chance to buy something a little different. Tickets are priced at $4.50 for adults, concessions at $3.50, children $1.50, and under fives are free. The tickets are available from www.classicfestivals, that's festivals with an S, tickets.co.uk.
And that classic festivals, what is it again?
It's www.
Yeah.
.classicfestivals, which has festival has an S, then tickets.co.uk.
And classic festivals tickets is all one word.
It's all one word. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's yes, it's quite a mouthful, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. Well, now I've got something about healthcare here. As you probably know, Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group are the people who decide how money is going to be spent on health services in Enfield. And they're inviting you to have your say in shaping healthcare services in Enfield as they present their commissioning intentions for 2017 to 2019. They'd like your feedback on their plans to improve health services in Enfield and what services they will buy in the future for local people. Now, this consultation meeting is at the Dugdale Centre, Enfield Town, EN2 6DS, on Wednesday, the 14th of September, from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. If you'd like to go, please call them on 020 3688 2814. That's 020 3688 2814. Explain your situation, as they need to know if people have any special requirements. So that's the Dugdale Centre, Enfield Town, at 2 p.m. on Wednesday the 14th of September, and you need to call 020 3688 2814. Now, talking of calling people, I'm sure you know by now that you have a listener's representative, Diane de Jersey, who will be happy to help you with any problems or concerns you have about your talking newspaper. And you can call Diane on 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578. And now here's Patricia with the first news item.
Hospital adds more doctors to A&E. Hospital bosses at North Middlesex Hospital have brought in more doctors to A&E in the run-up to an inspection by a health watchdog. The Care Quality Commission, CQC, had issued a deadline of August the 26th to make improvements after it rated the A&E department inadequate. The department is one of the busiest in London and deals with about 180,000 patients a year. Inspectors also said the medical wards, including services for older people, required improvement. CQC inspectors made an unannounced visit to the hospital in Stirling Way in April. They found a catalogue of problems, including delays in initial assessments of patients arriving at A&E, delays in them being seen by a doctor and being moved onto specialist wards. There were also insufficient middle-grade doctors and consultants in the casualty department. Since the inspection, the Hospital Trust has recruited more doctors to A&E. Some of them are on loan from other hospitals. The inspectors are due back from Tuesday, September the 20th, and they want to hear from anyone who is being cared for in the hospital or has friends or relatives there. It will be staging face-to-face events during the inspection, and people can also get in touch before their visit later this month. A CQC spokesman said, "We will look at the evidence the hospital has given to us, and we will be talking to other stakeholders."
Staff cuts more. Staff cuts cost more than 8 million in redundancy payouts. New figures show that axing more than 400 workers in 12 months cost the council more than £8 million. Enfield Council had to pay out 3 times more in exit packages than a year earlier, as it made major cuts to staff and budgets to meet spending targets. In the year up to April 2016, it says it made 31.6 million of savings as it wielded the axe. And the figures show that 430 people were made compulsory redundant in 2015/2016. In a detailed breakdown in the council's draft accounts, the council said 2 people were paid more than £150,000 each. 7 people picked up an exit package of between £60,000 and £80,000. 2 people received up to a total of £192,000, nearly £100,000 each, and 6 people received sums of between £100,000 and £150,000. However, most of the people to leave picked up more than modest sums. Some 325 staff picked up payments of less than £20,000 as compensation for losing their jobs. Together with other non-compulsory departures from the council, a total of 470 staff were made redundant at an overall cost of £8.5 million. That figure was sharply up on the year earlier, when 148 departures, 92 of them compulsory, cost the council just under £2.5 million. The council report said, since 2010, cuts to government funding and increased demands on services resulting from a growing population have meant that we have had to make £118 million savings, with £31.6 million being made in 2015-2016.
Hate preacher Rahman jailed. A dangerous preacher from Palmer's Green who encouraged people to support the terror group Islamic State, ISIS, is starting a 5.5-year jail sentence for his role in spreading hate. Mohammed Mizanur Rahman was sentenced at the Old Bailey along with the so-called hate preacher Anjem Chowdhury from East London. Mr. Justice Holroyd said Rahman was dangerous and had shown no remorse for his actions. Both men were convicted of inviting support for ISIS between June 2014 and March 2015. 33-year-old Rahman, who lives in North Circular Road, had uploaded a speech onto the internet which claimed that learned scholars backed the IS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He uploaded another speech encouraging people to take up jihad. Both men pledged their allegiance to ISIS on an extremist website on the 9th anniversary of the London terror attacks. The 2 men are thought to have been involved in recruitment and radicalisation for more than 20 years, and counter-terrorism experts trawled through years of material for their investigation. Both men were arrested in September 2014. They were convicted after a 4-week trial, but reporting restrictions were only lifted last month. Chowdhury from Hampton Road in Ilford was also sentenced at the Old Bailey Tuesday, to 5.5 years in prison. Commander Dean Hayden, the head of the Met's counter-terrorism command, said, "These men have stayed just within the law for many years, and there has been frustration for both law enforcement agencies and communities as they spread hate." He said the recent speeches and oath of allegiance was a turning point. At last, we had the evidence that they'd stepped over the line, and we could prove that they were actively encouraging support of ISIS. He said the case was a significant prosecution in the fight against terrorism. Where police are investigating after 2 men were arrested for fraud and terrorism offences when police spotted literature relating to a proscribed organisation on a stall in Edmonton. Detectives became suspicious of the men, who are aged 49 and 22, who were running a stall outside Edmonton Green Shopping Centre off Market Square. Police said the men claimed to be raising cash for charity, but officers found literature relating to the DHKPC, the Turkish extreme left Revolutionary People's Liberation Party front, at the stall around 3:30 p.m. on Saturday. Police arrested the 2 men on suspicion of fraud and dissemination of terrorist publications contrary to the 2006 Terrorism Act. Detectives from the Met's Counter-Terrorism Command are investigating. Both men were taken into custody at a North London police station and have since been bailed until October.
Brimstone crowd together for the first time since the 1960s. A group of former neighbours who grew up in Brimstone in the 1960s got together for a reunion with some flying in from as far afield as Los Angeles. The idea for the reunion came from former Brimstone Avenue resident David Chapman, 64, who was sad that the only time people met up seemed to be at funerals. He set up a Facebook page and within days had more than 140 members. He organised the reunion at the Hertford Road Conservative Club on Saturday, September the 3rd, with the help of his friend Mick Ulatowski. 81 people from the Brimstone Avenue and Castle Road areas turned up to the reunion, and the oldest guest was 84-year-old Teresa Brunton, whose children, David and Yvonne, went to school with Mr. Chapman. Most of the guests had attended the nearby Prince of Wales Junior School and Albany School. Mr. Chapman said, "It was highly successful and it was an absolutely wonderful night. We're all a little older, all a little fatter, but we all knew each other," he joked. The retired painter and decorator moved away when he was 21 and now lives in Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. His family had lived at Brimstone Avenue since 1933, he said. "When I lived there, it was all local authority homes and it was all outside toilets." One of the guests who made the journey for the reunion was Mr. Chapman's former classmate, Shirley Stevens, who flew in from LA. She is also the mother-in-law of Playboy publisher Hugh Hefner, as her daughter Crystal Harris is the 3rd wife of the 90-year-old. Mr. Chapman said, "Shirley went to school with me and she emigrated over 40 years ago. She's now in real estate. I joke that one minute she's eating caviar with Hugh Hefner and the next minute she's eating a pork pie with Chapman." Mr. Chapman made the buffet with the help of Mr. Ulatowski and even tracked down vol au vent to make a 1960s-themed spread. He filled the vol au vent with coronation chicken and prawn cocktail. There was also a disco provided by Jason Steer. Mr. Chapman said everyone contributed £10 a head to cover costs, and there was £200 left over, which he's donating to Help for Heroes and Macmillan Cancer Nurses.
New footage of missing teen Veronica released. Police have released new CCTV footage of an Enfield girl who disappeared from home more than a month ago. Detectives uncovered video of former Kingsmead School pupil Veronica Sibirisa in a South London street. 15-year-old Veronica used to attend the Southbury Road School before her family moved to Kettering in Northamptonshire. She disappeared from home in July and was seen at the Tesco Extra in Ponders End High Street on July 27th. The following day, she was seen walking hand in hand with a man in Brighton Terrace in Brixton. Detective Inspector Stuart Hitchon, one of the team of detectives working to locate her, said, "We've released some additional CCTV footage in the hope that it may trigger someone's memory of seeing her, or that Veronica herself may see it and make contact with us. It has been over a month since any sightings of her or any social media contact by her, which is very concerning. We desperately need to establish her whereabouts and ensure she is safe. Police have scoured the crowds at last weekend's Notting Hill Carnival in the hope of spotting her, as they knew that her friends were interested in the event. However, they did not see her." Mr. Hitchon said, "We believed there was a small chance Veronica might attend the carnival. However, despite appealing to the public, no new leads have come into the force. The teenager, who is also known as Rachel, is 5 feet tall, has long, straight black hair and brown eyes. Anyone who spots her should call 101.
An camp crisis heartbreak. An MP who went to Calais has described the heartbreaking situation of lone children waiting to be reunited with their families in the UK. Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows joined a cross-party group of politicians to visit the Calais jungle. The Conservative MP met with child refugees who have been separated from their families and are now at risk of violence and trafficking. He vowed to put further pressure on the government to speed up the application process and fulfil its commitment last February to provide places for child refugees at risk in Europe. He said it's heartbreaking that in Calais, a few minutes from British families queuing to go back to the UK, over 100 lone child refugees are waiting many months to be reunited with families in the UK. We simply must do more to provide a safe passage and sanctuary for children who have their family reunion claims accepted but are stuck in limbo for many weeks. These children are not living in a safe environment. There are no laws in the Calais jungle. Violence, intimidation, and exploitation are rife in the camp. He told of how he spoke to a 17-year-old teenage refugee who has no friends and no family in the camp and is frightened and alone as he waits to be reunited with his uncle and cousin in Willesden. Mr. Burrows has a meeting with the Immigration Minister next Monday. He will present recommendations on how to give the vulnerable children their refuge. Mr. Burrows added, "I am pressing the government to accept responsibility for these children and take all necessary practical steps to reunite these vulnerable children with their families. It will be a good test of the new government's commitment to the vulnerable and disadvantaged."
Balloons in memory of teen knife attack victim. Balloons were released into the sky at a football match in memory of a teenager killed in a knife attack. Hundreds of people attended the 5th Godwin Lawson Memorial Tournament at the Frederick Knight Sports Centre in Willoughby Lane, Tottenham, in honour of Godwin Lawson, 17. The 17-year-old's mother, Yvonne Lawson, launched the foundation, which is partnered with the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation, after Godwin's death, to educate people about the dangers of knives. This year's tournament was opened by Mayor of Enfield, Bernadette Lappage, and Neville Lawrence, Stephen Lawrence's father. Ms. Lawson said, "We're absolutely delighted with the feedback from the young people and their families who attended this event. Through events like this, we're able to educate young people about the dangers involved in gang and knife crime, steering them away from negative situations and encouraging them to make positive choices." Enfield-born Godwin is a professional football player with Oxford United and was killed by Moshe Avoga of St Anne's Road, Tottenham, when he tried to help friends being attacked in Stamford Hill in 2010.
Popular secondary school unveils its long-awaited primary. A long-standing secondary school whose former pupils include Amy Winehouse and S Club 7's Rachel Stevens is set to open a primary branch for the first time. Ashmole Academy in Southgate will welcome its first 60 primary age pupils to its 20-acre site on Monday. Founded in 1958, the school in Cecil Road became a multi-academy trust this year after a campaign for a new school. The campaign started in 2013, hoped to ease demand for schools' places in the black hole between the boroughs of Barnet and Enfield. Vice Chair of Ashmole Academy Trust, Gonal Daniels, said, "Parents have faith in Ashmole Academy's experience and reputation, which is why we are full to capacity with a sizable waiting list. An opening ceremony is to be held on September 23rd.
Charged. A man has been charged after the car he was driving injured two women in a road traffic collision last month in Enfield. Severn Kaplan, 25, of Newland Road in Crouch End, was charged with aggravated taking and driving away, dangerous driving, driving not in accordance with a licence, and no insurance on Monday, August the 29th. The incident happened in Hertford Road, Edmonton, where a woman in her 40s and another in her 20s were found injured on Wednesday, August the 28th. The police were called at 3:24 p.m, along with London Ambulance Service and London Air Ambulance. The two women were then taken to a hospital in East London. The women's injuries are not thought to be life-threatening or life-changing, police say. Mr. Kaplan was arrested at the scene on suspicion of aggravated taking and driving away and was taken to a police station in North London. He has been granted bail and will appear at Highbury Corner Magistrates on Wednesday, September the 14th.
Council calls in cycle proposals. The controversial Cycle Enfield scheme has been called in for discussion by councillors. Terry Neville, the Conservative leader on the council, has called in the multi-million-pound scheme, and it is set to be discussed at Thursday's Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which is actually taking place here as we are recording this evening. So if you hear any background noise, it's people coming out of that meeting still engaged in discussion. Mr. Neville said earlier that there were more than 1,600 objections to a consultation earlier this summer, and he argued that not enough time had been spent looking at them. He said there were many different objections to the scheme, and the Cabinet member who signed off the scheme could spend more time looking at them and considering specific objections. He said there'd been an almost unprecedented response to the consultation, which closed on the 29th of July. The scheme was signed off 13 working days later with minor modifications. Councillor Neville said that as officers needed to consider the objections and produce a report, it's utterly inconceivable that the Cabinet member could have given proper consideration to the objections that were lodged. Daniel Anderson, the Cabinet member for the Environment, said, "I utterly refute that. The 1,600 plus responses were each reviewed as they were received." He added, "Though I didn't personally read every single response, and would not be expected to, I gave full consideration to a comprehensive summary of the 84 main objections." The scheme was changed as a result of the consultation, he added. Mr. Anderson went on to say, "We've been able to learn from experiences and learn the principle of adaptation and listening to concerns." Last month, a High Court judge threw out an application for judicial review. The judge disagreed with the Save Our Green Lanes claim that the council's statement that the bike scheme would create a better Enfield for all was unfair. Save Our Green Lanes claimed the scheme would worsen air quality, and its leader, Kostas Georgiou, said it would appeal the decision.
Care home plan driven by elderly care concerns. Fears of a crisis in care for elderly people are fueling moves to build a new council care home. With more than 3,000 dementia cases in the borough, demand for space is likely to rise. and the cost of care is soaring. The critical situation has prompted Enfield Council to consider building a new home at Coppicewood Lodge in Grove Road, New Southgate, to replace its existing facility there. Councillors meet on Tuesday to discuss plans to knock down the existing building to create a bigger home for up to 80 people, which would open in late 2018. With the number of over 65s in Enfield forecast to increase by nearly a quarter in the next 10 years to 52,500, the council said it faces a significant challenge in meeting future demand. In 2015 to 16, the council paid for 687 residential and nursery care places. Prices paid by Enfield for nursing care rose 13%, and the cost of dementia care rose 17%. The cost of building a new home is not revealed in the report, which will be considered by Enfield's Cabinet on Tuesday.
Decision on crazy pitch plans delayed. Campaigners against plans to build a crazy football pitch will have to wait until next month to find out if it is going ahead. The decision on whether to build the new 3G pitch in the northeast corner of the fields near to Cambridge Gardens and the A10 was supposed to be taken last week. But it's now been delayed until October, giving campaigners more time to fight for their cause. The plans include building a new 10-foot-high hill enclosed by a fence to lessen the sounds for residents on nearby roads. John Hall of Cambridge Gardens said, "It's been a nightmare. It's cost me some sleepless nights. Right now, we've got a flat area of playing fields, but the obstruction means anyone coming through the corner of the fields could be a bit dodgy, as they'll be closed in. Suddenly, they're going to build a huge fence. It's crazy." The pitch would also be floodlit and open 7 days a week, all year round. Ruth Hastings-Iqbal, secretary of the Friends of Enfield Playing Fields, said, "We're going to see less green space and we cannot afford to lose any more. Ideally, we do not want to see it built at all, but if it is built, then it shouldn't be where it's planned." The Football Association has agreed to meet 3/4 of the estimated £600,000 cost, with the council borrowing the rest, around £150,000. Council spokeswoman Laura Berryman previously said it could not comment on the application before it appears before the committee. The application will be relisted in October.
Police hunt sex assault suspect. Two teenage schoolgirls were allegedly sexually assaulted by the same man as they walked home. The pupils, aged 13 and 14, were targeted in Silver Street, Enfield, on the 20th of July. Police have now asked any more possible victims to come forward. Detectives have released a CCTV still of the suspect, who wordlessly assaulted the younger girl at about 4 p.m. He then walked off, and a few minutes later he did the same to the 14-year-old. The man is white, around 5'8" tall, has short black hair and stubble. He was wearing a grey t-shirt, a dark body warmer, and bright red trousers. Detective Inspector Chris Rickson said, "We've been carrying out extensive inquiries to identify this man, who we want to speak to in connection with this investigation. This has included a significant trawl and search of CCTV in the local area, and we have now issued this still to ask the public for their help. If you recognise this man or have any information that could help us identify him, then please get in contact with us. At this stage, we have no information to suggest that there are any other incidents. However, I'd ask anyone else that something similar may have happened to report it, so it can be investigated. Anyone with information can call police on 020 8345 3349 or Crime Stoppers anonymously on 0800 555 111.
Man remanded over terrorism and public order charges. A man has been remanded in custody after appearing in court charged with alleged public order and terrorism offences. Sean Crichton, 44, of Bowood Road in Enfield, appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court yesterday and pleaded not guilty to the 10 charges. He has been charged with 7 counts of publishing or distributing written material which is threatening and could stir up religious hatred on grounds of sexual orientation. Crichton has been accused of 2 counts of possession of written material which was threatening, abusive or insulting and could stir up racial and religious hatred. He is also charged with gathering information which could be used for committing or preparing an act of terrorism. He is due to appear at the Old Bailey on Monday, September 19.
7 lose jobs after claims against people working with children. Council launched 48 investigations last year. 7 people lost their jobs after investigations into allegations made against people who work with children. An Enfield Council report says its Safeguarding Children section launched 48 probes into complaints last year. Councils employ social workers to look into serious allegations made against people who work with children. And in 2015-16, 10 complaints emerged from primary schools and 9 from secondary schools. Foster carers, childminders and health agencies were also the focus of investigations. Referrals are made from a variety of sources and can include children or their parents, police and schools. Without providing details, the report said 3 professionals were sacked and another 4 locum or supply staff had their placements cancelled. It said it found 6 of the allegations were unfounded and another 26 were unsubstantiated. 4 are still being investigated according to a report to the Council's Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Most complaints were complaints about alleged physical mistreatment, and 7 related to sexual allegations. The report says 1 case has resulted in police charging an alleged culprit. The number of sexual allegations rose from 2 to 7. The Council Safeguarding and Quality Service held another 70 consultations over incidents where it felt what had happened didn't merit further investigation. The report said a significant number of the consultations relate to incidents when school staff need to use positive handling. In these circumstances, the officer will evaluate the information in consultation with the head and the police and the police and investigate in circumstances when restraint has not been appropriate. The number of complaints at 48 is the lowest tally of allegations investigated by the service in the borough since 2010-11.
Pulling the plug. Thousands of unsafe electrical goods with a retail value of £232,000, which were stolen from a warehouse in Enfield, are starting their final journey to a shredder. The haul was confiscated from a warehouse in Enfield by trading standards officers. The raid was part of a national project funded by National Trading Standards, and the company has been issued with a winding-up order by Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. The potentially dangerous items were stored in a warehouse on the Great Cambridge Road and were being transported to be destroyed at a specialist plant in Nottingham. The 40-foot-long lorry was loaded up with electrical goods, including disco lights, shavers, nail drills, UV gel nail dryers, sat-navs and walkie-talkies. The items had been sold on the internet, and many came from China and other countries outside the EU. They were stored in what's known as a fulfilment house, which is used to store items, receive orders and dispatch goods. Lord Toby Harris, the chairman of National Trading Standards, warned shoppers to be on their guard when looking for bargains. He said, "If the price is such that it seems too good to be true, it's not what you're looking for." Lord Harris said people need to be aware of fake EU safety marks, which he'd spotted on the seized boxes, and to look at the plugs, which should have 3 pins rather than 2 found on some of the goods they seized. Trading standards officers did test purchasers through the internet and put items through safety checks. They said many of the items they seized had dangerous charges without fuses, unsafe cabling and battery problems, which could increase the risk of overheating, exploding or catching fire. One woman suffered a hand injury after there was a flash from a similar electrical item, said trading standards officers. Daniel Anderson, Enfield Council's cabinet member for the environment, said if the price of something seems much lower than its equivalent, people should be on their guard. People look for bargains. They don't give a second thought to it. If this stuff was used, there's a good chance that it would explode.
College offers some pure animal magic. Animal lovers who have had their hearts set on a career as a zookeeper, pet groomer, or dog trainer could have their dreams turned into reality at an Enfield's growing zoo. These are just some of the exciting jobs which students can embark on after studying at Capel Manor College's Menagerie of Exotic Animals in Bullsmore Lane. There are now over 260 animals, including Madagascan marmoset monkeys and hissing cockroaches at the campus. A purpose-built animal management building houses a collection of reptiles, amphibians, and an expanding exotic collection such as the Sudan plated lizards and Madagascan hissing cockroaches. Chameleons originating from Yemen, an English-bred tarantula, Australian wild tree frogs, and southern Canadian musk turtles are also some of the more unusual inhabitants. Outside, in purpose-built enclosures, a trio of marmoset monkeys called Rattler, Basset, and Red are on display to the public, along with meerkats, alpacas, wallabies, Shetland ponies, and a barn owl. With a range of animal management courses available, practical experience and a good knowledge of animal welfare is at the heart of each one. Caring for the animals is a key part of the learning process, but for those eager to work as zookeepers, understanding their behaviour, learning how to manage zoos, and even studying animal science is vital. A new foundation degree in animal management and zoology is due to start this month. Sarah Seary, head of school at Capel Manor College, explained the importance of having a hands-on approach for learning about the animals. Our collection and facilities at the college are very good for gaining an in-depth understanding of animals, she said. So we especially designed the degree to keep that practical element in it, so that students who aspire to work with animals nationally and internationally will develop a wide range of skills. There is also a commercial dog grooming salon where dogs enjoy being pampered for the day. They are bathed and cleaned by the students and receive a quick trim of their coat and nails. The animal care and management courses are part of the Princess Royal College of Animal Management and Saddlery in London.
Campaign for more ethnic organ donors. A campaign to boost the number of life-saving organ donors has been backed by Enfield Council, with particular emphasis on encouraging more people from ethnic minorities to come forward. Residents have been urged to sign up as Organ Donation Week gets underway. The campaign is spearheaded by NHS Blood and Transplant, which has said the number of donations is the highest it has ever been across the UK, but the demand for donors remains high. Councillor Crystal Fonyonga, Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Community Safety and Public Health, said it's such an amazing gift that we can all do, and there aren't any restrictions. People in their 80s can donate an organ, so I really would like every Enfield resident to think about it, tell their friends, and encourage their family to donate. The UK has one of the lowest consent rates for organ donation compared to the rest of Europe. NHS Blood and Transplant has also stressed the need for more Black, Asian and ethnic minority groups to donate. Ms Fonyonga said, in Enfield 95% of organ donors are from white communities, so it's generally a closer match if the organs come from someone of the same ethnic background. So we really want to raise awareness from ethnic minorities as well as every other community, and we would just like everyone to register. Caroline Baker, Enfield Council's Project Officer for Consultation and Resident Engagement Services team, was born with kidney failure, but was given a life-saving kidney transplant by her brother 10 years ago. I had 4 people who offered to be donors, and they were all tissue-typed, but my brother matched, and a few months later, after he had undergone tests, he donated to me. Anyone who wants to donate can log onto the Council's website and click on a link to sign up. It's so simple to register. You can go onto the website and within 2 minutes you've joined up, said Ms. von Younger. The key is for people to tell their friends and family members, she added. Organ Donation Week will take place between Monday, September the 5th and Sunday, September the 11th. For more information on organ donation or to register, visit www.organdonation.nhs.uk. That's www.organdonation.nhs.uk.
Public help rescue woman in her 70s. An elderly woman is in a stable condition after the car she was travelling in collided with a block of flats in Enfield yesterday, just before midday. Police say the woman, who is in her 70s, is believed to have been a passenger in the car with a man thought to be the driver in his 50s. Members of the public helped to rescue the woman before the fire crew arrived at the scene. Police were called to the ground floor flat along with 2 ambulances, 4 fire engines and 3 rescue units in Gunner Drive, Enfield, on Sunday. The man was released from the car by the help of firefighters, ambulance crew and police. The driver's injuries are not thought to be life-threatening. The man and woman were airlifted to hospital. The woman was taken to a hospital in East London and the man to a hospital in South London. Police evacuated the block of flats where the property was checked by a structural engineer. Residents from the flats were not injured. Police are investigating what happened. There have been road closures near the scene. Any witnesses or anyone with information about the incident should call the police on 101.
Mentally ill man fighting for pass. A mentally ill man who was denied a freedom pass says he is being dismissed because his disability is invisible. Damien Sheridan of Bullsmore Lane, Enfield, applied for the card allowing him free travel on London buses and trains as he is unable to drive. But the 47-year-old, who takes a cocktail of drugs for bipolar disorder and paranoid delusions, was horrified when Enfield Council said he was not eligible. He said, "It is as if mental disabilities don't exist, but just because you can't see them, it doesn't mean I have it easy. I feel as though I am being dismissed. I have been put to one side and I have been made to feel like I am not important at all. I would like to know how many people in this country have been made to feel like this. So many people with mental illnesses don't have a voice. A lot would give up, but I'm not that person." His application was rejected early this year and he appealed 4 months ago, but is still waiting to hear back. Mr. Sheridan, who lives alone, has limited concentration and says getting behind the wheel would be dangerous. He often has up to 4 hospital appointments a week and relies on buses and trains to get him there, which proves very costly. His bipolar disorder means his moods jump from one extreme to the other, and his paranoid delusions mean he hears voices from his late siblings. He added, "I can't drive. From the minute I sit in the car, I'd be nervous. It's just not safe. But because I am able to walk into a building unaided, because I've got all of my limbs, they don't give me a second thought. They think there's nothing wrong with me. It makes me feel awful. The fact that they only look for physical disability in this really needs to be addressed. We suffer too. Mr. Sheridan, who also has insomnia, was a successful bar manager when he began noticing his moods fluctuating. Unable to handle the pressure, he quit and took a break to try and get himself back on his feet. 2 years later, he took a managerial job at home base, but he worried his previously undiagnosed conditions were putting his colleagues at risk. He then presented himself to A&E, where he was finally diagnosed by a psychiatrist, something which changed his life. He now hopes to become a mentor for older people with bipolar disorder. But the training is in London, and he will be unable to get there without a freedom pass. He added, "I've always wanted to work, and I loved my job, so I was sad when I had to leave. Mental disabilities are as horrible as physical ones. The fact that I am not being recognised is so frustrating. I want to be able to stick up for and help people in my shoes, but I won't be able to do that without a freedom pass. It would mean everything to me." The criteria for issuing a freedom pass is set out by London Council, who did not respond to requests for comment. Enfield Council spokesman Suzanne Lindsay said, "The guidelines state quite clearly within these guidelines that those with a psychological disorder, learning or behavioural problems will not normally qualify a person for a badge unless their impairment causes a difficulty in walking."
Online tool to monitor fire risk in capital. The Fire Brigade has launched a new online tool to encourage Londoners to check what is being done to minimise fire risks in their area. The postcode lookup will give users an easily accessible local snapshot of the work being undertaken across the capital. The Brigade hopes that the public will engage with a consultation about the new London Safety Plan, LSP6, which is due to launch in November. LSP6 will set out how the Brigade will use its resources over the next 4 years. London Fire Commissioner Ron Dobson said that offering the data tool will enable the Brigade to both gather and feed back information of interest to the public, making London a safer place.
Resident complains over problems with rubbish. A busy high street has become Mount Unpleasant due to its problems with littering and fly tipping, according to a Cockfosters resident. The area near Cockfosters Station, taking in Cockfosters Road and Mount Pleasant, has recently seen an increase in footfall as a number of restaurants and high street shops have set up there. However, one resident living in nearby said this has led to an increase in litter being dropped, which in turn has seen a rat infestation develop. The resident, who lives near the area and refused to be named, has complained about the mess on Cockfosters Parade to Enfield Council repeatedly and said they only reacted to specific complaints rather than fixing the wider problem. She said, "It really would be lovely for Cockfosters to remain the pleasant area that it once was, despite the new additions to the high street. But this can only be done by raising awareness of the problems of littering and fly tipping. I, for one, am not visiting any of the restaurants on Cockfosters Road, as those rats are just a little bit too close to home." The residents also said the grassy plain nearby had become an informal fly tipping ground for people to dump household items, while people working at offices in Mount Pleasant were dropping cigarettes on the path outside during smoking breaks. Jason Charalambous, Conservative councillor for Cockfosters, has long complained to the Labour-controlled Enfield Council about the area. He said, "This has been going on for about 6 months, with the council constantly coming in to fix isolated problems, then leaving the area be." Enfield Council have been contacted for comment.
Leisure Centre staff given recognition for long service. Southgate Leisure Centre celebrated 3 of its most dedicated workers last month, as between them they chalked up an astounding 85 years in the job. The centre, which was taken over by Fusion Lifestyle in 2012, rewarded Liz Hawksford from Southgate, Jane Norman from Winchmore Hill, and Martin Nagel from Enfield with a cake and presentation. The three have all worked as lifeguards and in several other positions within the company. Jane, the youngest serving employee, started as a lifeguard in 1983, aged just 16, and said, "I can honestly say that the staff and the public, who are now my friends, keep me coming back every day. I was even lucky enough to meet my husband here when I was 21 whilst on lifeguard duty." Liz, who was 16 when she started in 1988, also owes a lot to the centre. "I met Jane here 30 years ago, who is now my lifelong best friend," she said. Martin, who joined in 1994, added, "Life has its ups and downs, but with the staff by my side, who are now my closest friends, they have helped me through the good and the bad times, and I can't ever imagine working anywhere else."
Turning back the clock at Capel. A display of classic and vintage cars at an historic house in Enfield also included a flypast by an historic aircraft. The show at Capel Manor was arranged by David Burrows as a fundraiser for the horticultural training charity based at Bullsmore Lane. It featured 500 cars, including 68 from the North London Middlesex Morris Miners Club, and the show has been sponsored by Mr. Burrows' Enfield Chaseside Electrical Security Company for the past 17 years. The oldest Morris Miner on display was a maroon 1950 Lowlight saloon. Visitors could also guess the number of balloons squeezed into a Morris Miner to raise money for the Marie Curie Cancer Charity, which is the year's official charity for the National Morris Miner Club. The oldest car at the show was a 1919 La France Simplex. It won the Best Veteran Vehicle in its section and is still roadworthy. Visitors also looked to the skies as an RAF Hawker Hurricane flew past and tipped its wings to the Dam Busters theme music. David Burrows said everybody was waving. When the pilot got back to base, he phoned and said it was unbelievable. He's never seen so many people as enthusiastic. The pilot donated a print, which was raffled to raise money for aircraft restoration.
Now, the simple headline, Spirited, gives details. Visitors to Forty Hall were wowed by demonstrations of traditional Ukrainian dance and food this weekend at the Spirit of Ukraine Festival, which is now in its third year. The Family Day was staged by the Friends of Forty Hall Park in partnership with the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain's Waltham Cross branch and supported by Forty Hall Estate. Ukraine's ambassador to the UK, Natalia Galibarenko, and embassy staff also attended. A variety of stalls offered foodie treats such as vareniki, stuffed dumplings, cakes, beer and wine, as well as ornately embroidered clothing and handmade ornaments. Novelist Maria Dzidzian was on hand to sign copies of her books. The breadth and diversity of talent on offer this year was astounding and appealed to connoisseurs of old and new Ukrainian culture, said Christine Modler-Thomas, Waltham Cross Ukrainian Community Media Director.
Terminally ill aunt spurs Debbie in 100-kilometre walk. A teacher who walked 100 kilometres for her terminally ill aunt says she feels a great sense of achievement. Debbie Godfrey of Winchmore Hill and Sarah Smith of Enfield both took part in the South Coast Challenge to raise money for the Progressive Supranuclear Palsy Association. The pair walked the 100-kilometre route from Eastbourne to Arundel in 25 hours, starting at 7:40 a.m. and finishing at 8:40 a.m. Miss Godfrey, 48, who was spurred on to take part in the event in honour of her aunt, said, "It was tough walking down the South Downs in 27 degrees. We had spectacular views and misty nights. We feel a great sense of achievement and did some great fundraising. We couldn't have done it without the support of our families who were there to cheer us on. It's now time to put our feet up." The duo, who set themselves a £300 target, have so far raised £651. Progressive supranuclear palsy is a degenerative condition which causes language changes and impulsive behaviour, as well as numbness of the limbs and jerking of the joints. Miss Godfrey, a nursery teacher at Grafton Preschool, had never heard of the disease until her aunt was diagnosed with it a few years ago. Doing it for my aunt spurs me on, definitely.
Little staff raised $2,500 for cancer charity. A group of Enfield supermarket staff teamed up for a sponsored walk from the East End to Hertfordshire to raise money for a cancer charity which supports children and young people. A total of 20 workers from Lidl Distribution Centre in Ardra Road, Enfield, completed a 31-mile trek raising $2,500 for cancer and leukemia in childhood and Sargent Cancer Care for Children, Click Sargent, last month. The money will be spent together with the £1 million which has been raised by other members from Lidl since 2014, when the supermarket started sponsoring the cancer charity. The team walked across 5 London boroughs in just one day, starting from Tower Hamlets and finishing in Hertford. The money raised will help to pay for 40,000 hours of care for cancer patients. Timothy Visor, sales organisation's projects consultant, Lidl UK, who took part in the walk, said, "It was pretty tough at times and there were plenty of blisters to deal with, but everyone pulled together to make it through. I'm proud of what our amazing team has accomplished, and we all had a great day together raising money for the vital work that Click Sargent does." Fern MacDonald, fundraising manager at Click Sargent, said, "Thanks to the backing of Lidl UK, the Click Sargent team is able to make a huge difference to the lives of thousands of families who are going through the hardest of times. With the help of Team Enfield and Lidl employees across the land, we're able to be there for many more children, young people and families when they need us most," she added. To help support Click Sargent's visit www.clicksargent, that's clicksargent.org.uk/CCAM.
Couple reunited after 4 decades. A couple who first met on their paper rounds have got married after rekindling their relationship 40 years later. Mark and Janice Flanagan tied the knot on Thursday, August the 18th, after meeting through an Enfield History Facebook page, Winchmore Hill and Palmer's Green in Memories. Mr. Flanagan, 55, said they knew each other as teenagers when they had paper rounds in Palmer's Green at Sweet Inspiration Newsagents in Hoppers Road, near Bourne Hill. After being apart for 4 decades, fate seemed to have drawn them together again, when, after contacting each other through social media, it turned out they both lived near Southampton, about 20 miles apart. Mr. Flanagan, a salesman for a builder's merchants, first met Janice, a 55-year-old security officer for the Ministry of Defence, in 1974, when he was 14 and she was 12, and he says he remembers the first time he spoke to her clearly. He said, "We got chatting one morning. I'd been building up to it for a while. We started going round together in our group of friends. We'd go to the Grange disco. We once had a kiss there. I was always a shy kid. I never asked her out. She now tells me she thought I was too good for her. She said, 'I used to fancy the pants off you.'" Mr. Flanagan, who's been married twice previously and has 3 children and 2 grandchildren, left Palmer's Green in 1986 with his first wife after saying they drifted apart as they got older, but says, "I always wondered what happened to her." He was living in Hampshire in 2001 when Janice moved to a village 20 miles away, but never knew they were so close for 15 years. He admits their relationship probably wouldn't have happened if she'd not lived so close by. Then, on April the 19th, 2015, they made contact for the first time since the 1970s. Mr. Flanagan said, "I joined the page because I'm quite interested in the local history, Then I saw Janice was a member. I started leaving comments on the page about the photos. Then she left one saying, "I know you. I used to come around your house." And I thought, blimey, Janice, after all this time. We became friends on Facebook and started chatting. We spoke so much over the week it was ridiculous. We met up and it was instant. When I saw her, I knew it was her. We hugged and that was liftoff. We were both in troubled times. My marriage was gradually fading away. Janice and her then husband were essentially living as brother and sister. For us, it was love straight away. They kept the page updated on the progress of their relationship and were married last week. Rick Starling, who established the Winchmore Hill and Palmer's Green Memories group in 2012, said he never expected his local history group to have such an impact on someone's life.
Getting down at Broomfield. Local talent topped the bill at the annual Palmer's Green Festival in Broomfield Park on Sunday. The Cafe Starfish Loves Coffee establishment set up its new Starfish Arts Festival, exhibiting the work of local artists on the park fence along Alderman's Hill, running from outside their shop to the main park gates. Arts and crafts were also available to buy from trader stalls. Those looking for a more high-energy fun were able to leap on the bungee fly, climb the UK's tallest touring climbing wall, or join in the dancing, led by Salsatricity in the dance zone. Food stalls offered a range of treats from a hog roast to afternoon tea, with a heady mix of music playing on both the bandstand and the bowling green. The festival was organised in partnership with the Friends of Broomfield Park, with the cooperation of Broomfield Community Orchard, Broomfield Conservatory, the Palmer's Greenery Cafe, and the Broomfield Model Boating Club. With in excess of 5,000 attendees, organisers were keen to encourage local festival goers to leave their cars at home and walk to the event.
Fitness and Fun Day to raise vital cash. A woman from Enfield is organising a fundraising fitness event and fun day on Saturday in aid of Diabetes UK. Fitness instructor Sev Amjad will run a session alongside activities including yoga and Zumba. Sev is hoping to raise £3,000 in memory of her friend Andrula, who lived with type 2 diabetes for 20 years. The two had been friends for 40 years before Andrula died in 2015 after developing complications with her diabetes. Sev said, "We'll have a speaker from the charity itself and a host of fun, games, food and variety of fitness professionals and an opportunity to win some fantastic prizes." The day will take place at Westlea School, Hazelbury Road, Edmonton, between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. Entrance is £5 a person, with under 16s going for free. And there's an email and a website address for details if you want to get in touch or to donate. So for more information, contact Sev at fitnesswithsev@gmail.com. That's the address is given, fitnesswithsev@gmail.com. And to donate, you can go to https://www.justgiving.com/sevink-amjad1. And that final part, sevink-amjad1, is capital SEVINC hyphen then capital AMJAD1.
Before we go on, there's just time to mention that our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breu. It's performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, who has kindly given his permission for us to use it. Now, we've got a bit of sport, and then we thought you'd like to hear some letters, and then we'll wrap up. So here's Patricia with the first item of.
This is a cricket report. Defeat sees Southgate end the season in 4th position. Southgate had to settle for a fourth-place finish in the Premier Division of the Middlesex County Cricket League after suffering a 32-run defeat at home to Richmond under the Duckworth-Lewis method on Saturday. Although Southgate began the day in fourth place, they knew that victory would see them leapfrog above their visitors in the final table, but they were unable to achieve this as they fell short in a rain-hit contest. Tom Edrich held the hosts' top order together after they'd been put into bat with a battling innings of 58 off 114 balls as wickets fell around him. Hayden Morton helped him to add 59 for the fourth wicket, while useful contributions lower down the order from skipper Faisal Mir and Phil Dunnett helped Southgate to reach 190 for 9 in their 50 overs. David Burton, 3 for 13 from 10 overs, impressed with the ball for the visitors. With the weather looking increasingly threatening, Richmond played positively from the start of their reply in an attempt to ensure they remained ahead of the required rate. Greg King scored a quick-fire 23 before becoming the only man to be dismissed, while Bhavesh Pankania was unbeaten on 48 when the rain arrived with the visitors well ahead of their Duckworth-Lewis target. Meanwhile, Winchmore Hill's slim hopes of securing promotion from Division 3 came to an end as their match at home to South Hampstead was abandoned because of rain. Leroy Shepherd top-scored with 68 and Majid Akram smashed 39 off just 15 balls as the visitors were dismissed for 238, with Scott Birkinshaw, Delaroy Terblanche and Jack Irwin taking 2 wickets each. Jim Gatting, 38 not out, played well for Hill in reply, but rain forced the players off the field with the score of 65 for 2 after 13 overs, 7 short of the total needed to constitute a match. Elsewhere, Enfield ended their league season in Division 2 with a 34-run defeat at home to Brondesbury under the Duckworth-Lewis method. Jack Plum confirmed his standing as the leading run scorer in the Middlesex League this season by compiling 66 after the hosts elected to bat first. Kyle Bacchus-Brown and Neville Talbot also made useful contributions before Enfield were bowled out for 238, with Glenn Phillips taking 4 for 55. Phillips then took centre stage with the bat in remarkable fashion, smashing 16 fours and 3 sixes as he raced to 108 not out before play was brought to a halt with the score at 142 for 1 after 20.2 overs. Enfield take on Stanmore in the Middlesex Cup on Saturday.
Town make FA Cup exit. Not even the return of Bobby Devine and Claudio Vilcu to Enfield Town could prevent the club from bowing out of the FA Cup at the first hurdle as they slumped to a 1-0 defeat at Hanwell Town on Saturday. Town have endured a difficult start to the season in the Ryman Premier Division, picking up just 5 points from their first 6 matches, but were boosted in the build-up to the cup clash at Hanwell by bringing key men Devine and Claudio back to the club. Striker Devine and central defender Vilcu both left in the summer to join National League South sides Welling United and Bishop Stortford respectively, but grew frustrated at a lack of playing time and decided to move back to Town. Both men featured in the starting lineup for Saturday's first qualifying round tie, but Town once again were unable to take any of the numerous chances they created as they failed to score for a third successive match. Despite dominating possession from the start, the visitors had to wait until the 17th minute to have their first real attempt on goal when Tyler Campbell's long-range strike was tipped over the bar by homekeeper Melvin Minter. But it was Hanwell who took the lead 4 minutes later as Dean Allen scored from the spot following a foul on James Simmons. The visitors dominated possession after this, but lacked the quality in the final third to break down a stubborn home side and rarely looked like scoring until the final quarter of the match. Town piled on the pressure in the closing stages, and Campbell squandered a golden opportunity when he blazed over the goal, he was granted another opportunity but denied by a fantastic save from Minter. However, the goal would not come, and Hanwell almost added a second on the break late when Tyler Christian Law's shot from more than 30 yards out crashed against the bar. It was very disappointing to lose, said manager Bradley Quinton. The FA Cup is important to the club because of the money that it can bring in, and we wanted to have a good run. We created chance after chance, but we just couldn't take any of them. Their keeper made some fantastic saves, but no one had the composure to put the ball in the back of the net. We're definitely suffering from a lack of confidence in front of goal. It's great to have Bobby and Claudio back, but I still want to bring in another proven goal scorer. We'll be making a 7-day approach for a striker, and a couple of people may well be told to move on. Enfield Town go to Folkestone Invicta on Saturday at 3 p.m, before visiting Cheshunt on Tuesday in the League Cup at 7:45 p.m.
Enfield Borough eased to victory. Top form continues with emphatic win. Enfield Borough travelled to Grendon Rangers on Saturday and won 4-0 in South Midlands Division 2 as they built on their 5-1 win over St Neots Town Reserves. It was Grendon who made the better start to the game as they put Borough on the back foot with long diagonal passes and early running. Early on, Grendon looked dangerous without creating any real chances, and with 12 minutes on the clock, the home side looked to have taken the lead when their forward tapped the ball in, but the goal was ruled out for offside. Alfie Hatch outsmarted Grendon's entire team with a quick free kick and looped the ball into the net to open the scoring. Borough were looking confident, and it was not long before they got a second. Hatch was involved as he assisted Solomon Nwabo, putting him through on goal. The tricky forward calmly rounded the keeper to make it 2-0. Henderson Brown added a third after Devon Hurd controlled the ball and delivered a delightful cross for the player to head in. In the second half, Borough continued their dominance, and with 55 minutes gone, Elamir Ibrahim almost got his first goal of the season. After a run, he fired his shot just past the top corner, and shortly after, Nwabo had his effort cleared off the line. Rangers continued to push for a way back into the match, but there was no getting past the centre-back pairing of Brian Shibangu and Guy Kianjabeni. Instead, they were limited to taking long shots that never troubled debutant goalkeeper Mario Cenoli. There was no way back for Grendon, with Borough delivering the final blow in the 68th minute as Nwabo scored his second of the game after rounding the keeper. Borough faced Thames Rangers at home on Saturday.
Now another rugby report. Disappointing defeat for Ignatians in last friendly. Enfield Ignatians suffered a disappointing 21-7 defeat away to Dunstablians in their second and final pre-season friendly. Coach Ali Cook is expecting a vast improvement in the league opener against Hampstead on Saturday. A lethargic Ignatians side had their backs to the wall for most of the first half. Cook said, "We were pinned in our own half for the best part of 33 minutes and the penalty count, 9, was far too high. Rampant Dunstablians took the game to the visitors and the pressure eventually paid off after the home pack took play to within metres of the blue and gold's line before the scrum half sniped over after a vital tackle was missed. Ignatians could have been further behind as only excellent defence from Robert Rigby, Jordan Wilson and Wes Warren thwarted 2 gilt-edged scoring opportunities. The team adopted a more pragmatic approach in the second half, but Dunstablians' scrum half still scored a try. Ignatians were awarded a penalty try, which was converted by Jordan Wilson, but the side could not avoid defeat.
Sarries begin with a bonus point win. A late try from Ben Spencer helped Saracens make the perfect start to the defence of their Aviva Premiership title on Saturday by securing a bonus point 35-3 win over Worcester at Twickenham. Sarries struggled to get their game together during a drab first half, which ended with them only leading 6-3, but they plied on the pressure after the interval, and Jamie George and summer signings Alex Lozwowski and Shalak Berger joined Spencer in crossing the line to give them maximum points. An encouraging debut for Lozwowski also saw the young fly half kick 3 penalties and 3 conversions to end with a personal haul of 20 points. But Director of Rugby Mark McCall was not overly impressed with the Sarries' performance and believes that his side have plenty of room for improvement. I actually thought our skill level wasn't as great as a team, he said. We could have passed the ball a lot better than we did, and we made a lot of errors with the ball. Some of that was forced by Worcester, but the rest was forced by ourselves, and we will have to do a bit of work on that. Overall, I am not too happy. I am pleased we got the 5 points, and we're always happy to win. But that was a hugely rusty performance. I thought we defended well for the whole game, so that is something to hang on our hat. We need to give Worcester a lot of credit in the first half. They were really physical and made life hard for us with the ball and at the breakdown. A lot of people played well, but we just need to be more consistent across the game than we were. Meanwhile, Sarries have confirmed that French international hooker Christopher Touloufe will join them from Toulouse next summer after agreeing a 2-year deal with the club from the end of the 26-17 top 14 season. Saracens visit Exeter on Sunday at 3 p.m. in a repeat of last season's Premiership final.
Table tennis. Denise Payat won double gold at the school games at Loughborough University. The 15-year-old from Enfield helped the South East squad to claim the girls' team event for the 4th year in a row before she went on to seal the individual title, making up for her disappointment of finishing runner-up the previous year. "I love this competition because there are not many team events in England," said the Enfield County School pupil. "This one brings everyone together. I was really happy to win in the singles because last year was a disappointment, and this year I trained really hard in the summer." Meanwhile, Payet has been named in the England youth squad for the 3rd successive year. And finally in this sports roundup, hockey. Olympic gold medalist Hannah McLeod was a special guest at Southgate Hockey Club on Saturday when they held their club day. McLeod, part of the triumphant Team GB women's hockey side at last month's Rio Olympics, took part in a question and answer session involving some 200 people at the club based in Trent Park. "I can't wait to see what happens in 10 years' time," she said. "It's great to see the number of people turning up to events like this. We have to keep having success at international level. I hope winning gold can kickstart momentum. It's certainly not an easy path to get to the top, but my God, it's worth it." Okay, that's the end of the sport. And now here's Patricia with the first of a selection of letters.
The headline for this letter is "So much for urgent care." Elam of Tinton Road, Wood Green writes, "Tonight I went to the urgent care at Chase Farm Hospital at approximately 8:30 p.m. as I was in immense pain. I have a degenerative spinal disease with a possible slipped disc. I went there as they have x-ray machines and I didn't want to clog up the A&E department at North Middlesex Hospital. When I arrived, I was told, 'Sorry, no doctors here to deal with that sort of thing. You'll have to go to Barnet General Hospital or North Middlesex Hospital.' So much for world-class care and local expertise. All they're interested in at Chase Farm is acquiring the land and building housing that no one will ever be able to afford."
Caroline Ruffley, Schools Surface Area Coordinator of Enfield, NSPCC, has contributed the following advice to help tackle bullying. As children in Enfield start their new school term, the NSPCC is delighted to announce support for the anti-bullying #BackToSchool campaign and ask everyone to stand up to bullying. The Diana Awards anti-bullying campaign will be running in September, and it aims to encourage young people to think positively about returning to school and support them with their transition. It asks people of all ages to post or share a picture of themselves at school, past or present, on social media with their back to school advice using the #BackToSchool. Please note that Twitter and Instagram users must be 13 years or older. It can often be hard for adults, including parents, to know whether or not a child is being bullied. A child might not tell anyone because they're scared and the bullying will get worse. They might think that they deserve to be bullied or that it's their fault. Adults can't always see the signs of bullying, and no single sign indicates for certain that a child is being bullied. We all know bullying can have a devastating impact on a young person's life. It can leave them feeling anxious, depressed, lonely, worthless and scared. The NSPCC Speak Out and Stay Safe programme is doing all it can to teach children about abuse in all its forms and how to get help, including through Childline. Since the launch of the programme in Enfield, it has reached more than 12,000 children through 87 school visits. Anyone being bullied can speak to a counsellor by calling Childline on 0800 1111 or through a one-to-one chat line or at childline.org. There is also advice from other young people on the online message boards. For more information on the hashtag Back to School campaign, go to antibullyingpro.com. That's antibullyingpro, one word, .com, /back to school.
Okay. Paul Mandel of Ullswater Road, Southgate, says, how about the rest of the year? He says, I refer to Councillor Daniel Anderson's letter, our long-term plan will keep the river clean, opinion, Advertiser, August 31st, lamenting that I am a hard man to please. Please let me acknowledge and thank him for clearing up the model boat pond in Brimstone Park. But what does concern me is that it's been cleaned up in time for the Palmer's Green Festival, when it should be kept in good order year-round. Nevertheless, Mr. Anderson should be proud to know that I and many others, even those who do not share all of his political views or support his promotion of Mini Holland, appreciate his usual exceptionally prompt attention to local problems.
Another letter under the heading, They're Throwing Cash in a Hole in the Ground. Mrs. B. Edis of College Gardens, Enfield writes, the suggestion of a fortnightly green waste collection isn't practical. As usual, the actual problem hasn't been identified and the consultation offers two ridiculous alternatives. Plant growth does not occur evenly through the year. Reducing weekly green waste collections from December through to April to once a month would inconvenience nobody much and save nearly as much money. Conversely, stopping them from September through to November will encourage both blight and bonfires. As usual in any consultation, the sensible solution is not on offer. I will predict that the reaction of most people will be either to burn garden waste in November, causing air pollution locally and probably extra calls to the fire brigade, or they will simply let their gardens become overgrown eyesores, or they will put the overflow in their green waste in their black bins. Since the council pays for the contents of the black bins to be buried in a large hole in Bedfordshire at immense cost, they may well find their short-sighted attempt to save money, raise revenue, will backfire and end up costing all of us council taxpayers far more. In Germany, recycling is encouraged. Green waste, metal and tinfoil, nappies, coloured paper, white paper, cardboard and plastics are all collected separately so as to reduce sorting costs, which makes it economic to sell what is recycled. Conversely, black bins are barcoded and weighed. Any excess to an agreed weight per person is charged for, so as to encourage recycling, thus saving huge amounts of local government spending on vast holes in the countryside. Typically, the first thought of a Labour council is to mindlessly tax or fine its taxpayers with no regard to the practicalities and knock-on effects of what they're proposing. Organising the waste collection service so as to both save money and stop pollution does not enter their heads.
Stephanie Millward, British Paralympic swimmer and MS Society supporter, writes, Together we can help beat MS. I was diagnosed with MS at the age of 17. just as I set my sights on being a competitive swimmer. My Olympic dreams slipped away as my symptoms got worse. There are more than 100,000 of us in the UK with MS. It's really unpredictable and different for everyone. It's often painful and exhausting, and can make it hard for us to do the things we enjoy. But it doesn't have to be this way. I will be aiming for gold, my 6th Paralympic medal, at the Rio 2016 Paralympics. It's a feat I've only been able to achieve with the support of my friends and family. Everyone's journey with MS is different, but no one has to face it alone. As the leading charity for people with MS, the MS Society support people affected by the condition to live independent and fulfilling lives. They know that we're stronger together, which is why I'm doing the MS Walk, a 5 kilometre, 10 kilometre or 20 kilometre walk along the Thames in London on 25th of September. I will be doing the 5 kilometre challenge in my wheelchair with my husband and 1,000 others from the MS community by my side. Find out more by visiting msus.org.uk/ms-events/ms-walk, or join the conversation using hashtag capital M, capital S, capital W, small ALK. That's hashtag MSWalk. Together, we are strong enough to stop MS.
Here's a note from Mike Faulkner, who is the co-founder of something called British Citizen Youth Awards, and he wants us to nominate unsung youth. He says people are being urged to honour the unsung young heroes of Enfield by nominating them for the first ever British Citizen Youth Awards. We're calling Enfield Independent readers to help us find under-16s from across the area who have positively impacted the community, helped a local charity, or undertaken exceptional activities in support of others. There's no age limit for selfless acts of kindness, which is why we're launching an award specially designed to honour under-16s. Selfless people are the key to making our society and communities the special places that they are, and this includes many unsung heroes who are often responsible for amazing things but don't receive the praise they're due. If you know of a young person under the age of 16 who deserves to be recognised for their commitment to a good cause, then please put them forward for the award. We need the public's help to find our young hidden heroes. Public nominations for British Citizen Youth Awards will close on September the 16th before being reviewed by the BCYA committee. A full list of this year's recipients will be published in October ahead of an awards ceremony where the selected nominees will be presented with British Citizen Youth Awards titles and medals at the Palace of Westminster on October the 18th. The British Citizen Youth Award is in association with world's largest optical retailer, Specsavers, and creative communications group BT, who will also be represented at the awards ceremony. Well, we've reached the end of the programme for this week. Don't forget, if you need any help with the talking newspaper, or would like to tell us about your news and special announcements, or just tell us what you think, we'd love to hear from you. Just call your reader's representative, Diane de Jersey, on 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet, put the memory stick into the packet, and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Coming up next after this on your memory stick is the latest news and information for the Greater London area from Infosound. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time. So thanks for being with us. From me, Malcolm, Patricia, Evan, and Jason, goodbye.
Goodbye.